He collector of regrets, not money bag. It was a gray Thursday morning in Chicago when Henry Mallory, a man in his late 50s, walked along the rain-slick streets without an umbrella. He didn't mind the rain, in fact, it suited him. Rain had a way of washing the city clean of its arrogance, exposing its raw edges. Henry was a man who had learned to look for the edges in life. Most people collected wealth, trophies, or fleeting moments of joy. Henry collected regrets. Henry's small apartment overlooked the bustling streets of downtown Chicago, a modest space filled with piles of notebooks, faded photographs, and scraps of letters. Each of these items represented someone's unspoken remorse, a confession that was never voiced, a "what if" that lingered like smoke in the air. Unlike others, Henry didn't see regret as a burden. To him, it was a currency far more valuable than gold. Henry's obsession with regrets began 20 years earlier. He had once been a successful banker, married to a woman he loved dearly, and had a promising career that could have taken him anywhere. But in pursuit of money and status, he missed the moments that mattered: his daughter's first steps, his wife's quiet sadness, the fleeting warmth of ordinary happiness. By the time he realized, the bank had promoted him, his wife had left, and his daughter barely recognized him. It was a late autumn evening when Henry sat alone in his office, staring at the city skyline, that he decided to quit. He walked out of the bank, left behind the suits, the prestige, the comfort, and never looked back. Most people thought he was reckless, even insane. But Henry didn't care. He wanted to do something meaningful, something that mattered, and in that decision, he began collecting regrets. Henry traveled across the United States, from the crowded streets of New York City to the deserts of Arizona, seeking out people burdened by unspoken remorse. He would sit with them, listen, and write down their confessions in neat, careful handwriting. He didn't judge. He didn't offer advice. He simply recorded their truths. In New York, he met Sarah, a woman who had walked away from her art dreams to care for her sick mother. "I sometimes dream of my paintings," she confessed, tears glinting in her eyes. "But I've chosen the other life, and I wonder if it was worth it." Henry nodded, writing her words in his notebook, and promised to keep them safe. In San Francisco, he met Tom, a former soldier haunted by a decision made in the chaos of war. "I saved some, I lost some," Tom said, voice trembling. "But the ones I couldn't save, they haunt me every day." Henry listened, writing it all down. Every regret Henry collected was a story of lost opportunities, of moments ignored, of courage deferred. Yet, the more he collected, the more he realized how universal these feelings were. Every person had something they wished they could change. And yet, few spoke of it. But Henry's own life remained a regret-laden landscape. Despite hearing countless confessions, he never shared his own. He lived in quiet solitude, haunted by what could have been, carrying his failures silently while helping others confront theirs. One winter, in a small town in Vermont, Henry met a young man named Alex, sitting alone on a park bench, staring at the frozen lake. Alex was 25, ambitious, and terrified of failure. He had left his family behind in rural Ohio to chase a career in technology. "I'm scared," Alex said, his voice barely audible. "I don't want to fail, but I don't want to miss life either." Henry sat beside him, offering no advice, only his presence. Alex shared his fears, and Henry wrote them down, the ink soaking in like a balm to the young man's anxious soul. Henry's notebooks grew thicker with each passing year. He began to see patterns. People regretted the same things over and over: lost love, unspoken words, missed chances. He realized that regrets weren't just personal failures, They were reminders of what truly mattered: love, courage, connection. One rainy evening in Chicago, Henry returned to his old apartment. He had traveled coast to coast, collected hundreds of regrets, and yet, he felt an emptiness he could not name. Sitting by the window, he looked at the city lights reflecting on the wet streets below, and for the first time, he felt the weight of his own silence. Henry decided it was time to confront his own regrets. He pulled out an old photograph of his daughter, Emily, taken when she was 10. She was smiling, her eyes bright with innocence and love. Henry hadn't seen her in years. He had sent letters she never replied to, birthday cards that never arrived, calls that went unanswered. The regret was sharp, almost physical. With a trembling hand, Henry booked a flight to New York, where Emily now lived. He had no plan, no expectation, only a desperate hope that she would let him see her, that he could apologize, that he could somehow make amends. When he arrived, he found her working at a small bookstore in Brooklyn. She was taller than he remembered, confident, yet carrying a subtle sadness in her eyes. "Dad," she said, her voice a mixture of shock and caution. "Emily," Henry whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry, for everything. I've spent my life collecting regrets, and I realized, the greatest regret is not telling you how much I love you, not being there when you needed me." Emily studied him, searching for sincerity in a face weathered by time and mistakes. After a long, tense moment, she stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him. "I missed you," she said softly. "I've always missed you." For the first time in decades, Henry felt a sense of completion. His regrets were no longer just the stories of strangers, they were part of his own redemption. He had collected regrets, yes, but he had also learned that it was never too late to confront them, to seek forgiveness, to reconnect with what truly mattered. Henry returned to Chicago, but he no longer wandered alone. Emily visited often, and together, they read the notebooks filled with confessions of strangers. Henry had once thought regret was a burden, but now he saw it as a gift, a reminder to live fully, to love fiercely, and to never let fear dictate one's life. Years later, when Henry passed quietly in his sleep, his notebooks remained. They were more than collections of sorrow, they were testaments to human imperfection, courage, and connection. People who read them felt seen, understood, and inspired. And somewhere, in the quiet city streets of Chicago, a man who had once collected regrets had finally found peace. The moral of Henry's life became clear. Wealth and status fade, moments pass, and opportunities slip away, but love, forgiveness, and courage endure. In the end, the regrets we face can either imprison us or guide us toward what truly matters. Henry had chosen the latter. And so, Henry Mallory, the collector of regrets, left behind a legacy far richer than money could ever buy, a reminder that even in our regrets, there is the power to change, to heal, and to love.